All
Yeah.
right, awesome. Well, we can
Now, and
just
I would
focus on that
encourage
topic.
everybody, what I would encourage everybody to do is look up that my friend Tim Alberino, because it will blow. If does anybody on here, have you ever, if anybody's on here has heard of him, raise your hand or whatever, because it is, the guy is just, he was on Sean Ryan just recently. Sean Ryan, he's been on Tim Pool. Um, and his
Yeah,
paradigm
we should
is,
try to get him on here as well.
you really should. He's one of the most intelligent, like just, and he's got like, he knows things that are unconventional, right? Because he's lived in other countries and he's like studied other cultures. One of his big things is he studied megalithic sites, and he has a book about, and what the conference that he's doing right now is laying out the case that cataclysm, particularly cataclysm that is timed according to the zodiac. And what he explains is that the zodiac is not about astrology; it's truly an ancient calendar or a timeline for approximately how often the Earth's magnetic poles reverse, and that when that happens, nearly everybody dies. Like the planet goes through this massive shift, nearly everybody dies, and then there's a remnant that remain. And because because civilization is now totally wiped out, they might have a little bit of knowledge of what to do. But like, if you asked me to build a LED television, I would have no idea how to do that, right?
Tell me you saw the Teotihuacan, you went to the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon in Mexico City. Tell me at least that, and then
Like megalithic sites like Machu Picchu, or the pyramids in the pyramids that are in, whether in the Aztec Empire, the Inca, and then you've got pyramids of Egypt. I mean, it's ubiquitous across the world, and some of these sites have got stone structures at their base that there's even modern technology and modern machinery would have a very difficult time putting in place and making it that perfect. It suggests to me that there were ancient civilizations that were extremely advanced. And what happens is, and I think Tim Alberino is right, like you have cataclysm occur, whether it's a comet that hits, or it's the poles that the electromagnetic, the
Noah's
magnetic
Ark.
poles.
Noah's Ark, Eric.
Yes, and so it creates the Noah's Ark experience, right? And so if you read the Bible, pre-Noah was a pretty wild period in world history. And that pre-Noah period, you had, and this where it fits in with the UFO phenomenon, okay? And when David Grush is telling me that there's a Nordic type of aliens that crossbreeds with humans and creates this crossbreed, in the Bible it describes this. In Genesis 6, it says the that basically angels looked down and lusted after the women of earth. They decided to come together, and they came down and they copulated with so basically they created hybrids, and the hybrids were called the Nephilim. And the Nephilim were considered giants or mighty men, basically demigods. And so the question is, like, when you hear this, it's like, it sounds like just wild, but it's in the Bible. But if you look through not just the Bible, but what about Greek mythology? You look at every like major historical document, it always goes back to these some tale about a god that comes down, creates a half breed, and then that half breed rules. And so, I don't like, to me, that's a fascinating overlap that consistently happens. And so what Tim Alberino says is that, look, the Bible describes angels as non-earth creatures. At the end of the day, that means they're alien. They're not from planet Earth. They're from somewhere else. And we tend to think of them as like ethereal, that they're just these like shadow type figures, but they do have physical form, because if you read the Bible, they have physical form. They often actually look weird because they're startling when people see them. and they always have to say, "Do not be afraid," when somebody sees them. So that tells you that they don't always look human. And so it's an interesting overlap with this whole the history of um, our civilization potentially.
I'm with you on that, and you can respond.